It may be another episode of Ups and Downs, but it's still the Christmas holiday season. So we wear the hat. I don't know why it's such a big deal. For some reason, we just have to dress up like Santa Claus and go, hoo, hoo, hoo. He's a really, really weird dude. But yes, it is Christmas week. We have just had another episode of AEW Dynamite, but the big question on everybody's lips is, well, was it any good or did it absolutely suck? Just calm down. I know, or this guy does, the finger of power. He gives the good bits an up and he gives the bad bits a down. Let's not stand on ceremony here, Mr. Wayne, and let's up those downs for, AEW Dynamite. I think it is time to start shouting more about the tag team known as Top Flight. That's very handy because the opening match of AEW Dynamite just so happened to feature the tag team called Top Flight. But my two things are this. One, after they had their match with the Young Bucks, so many people went, well, they only had a good match because they were taking on the Young Bucks. Oh yeah? Well, they just had another match here and they were flipping good again. Plus, they were taking on MJF and Chris Jericho. Must have been kind of intimidating. Is getting it up. I knew this was going to be good as well because one of the first things we saw was Chris Jericho just slapping Darius right round the face. And Darius was like, okay. So he went absolutely nuts on not only the former AEW World Champion, but the former WWE Champion, and basically a Hall of Famer all in his own right. The best part of all of it is that tag team are absolutely all in with this tag team thing. They look like a tag team, they fight like a tag team, they're always in sync, they're always double team moves, and you had this wonderful juxtaposition here, because even though they were doing that, MJF and Chris Jericho may have been a pairing, but they just wanted the spotlight on their individual selves. After a hot tag, the Inner Circle took over, as is always the way, including MJF just choking Dante at one point, but when he did creep over to his corner and give Darius the hot tag, my word, can that guy go? We saw one of those Spanish flies. And admittedly, we do see a lot of Spanish flies, but it's a bit like eating pizza. I've never eaten a pizza and gone, oh, I've eaten too much pizza. I'm like, man, pizza makes me feel all excited in my tum-tum and my toes. And every time I see a Spanish fly, I'm just like, I can't fathom it. I think he also jumped off Jericho at one point, because if you can, why the hell not? And he almost got the win after the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up. But very unfortunately, it wasn't their night. They still won in my eyes when Darius took his brother and just chucked him over the top rope like a weapon. I will always enjoy that. But this is where we do have to talk about Jake Hager, who was at ringside, so almost straight away when the bell went ding ding, you were like, well, if Jakey boy is out here, he's probably going to get involved. Then he did. He grabbed Darius mid-offense, which obviously caused the disruption, and after the heat seeker courtesy of MJF, that was me being the referee. It was a little bit annoying, I agree. Point is, MJF and Chris Jericho won. And I tell you, it was a really good tag match, but afterwards, Jake Hager clearly is not over everything that happened with him and Wardlow a few weeks ago, because he got on the microphone and he was, look, everybody in the Inner Circle is doing their job apart from Wardlow. I mean, I can't even see him. He's at home sorting some personal issues out. So, in a few weeks' time, I want to have a staring contest. He didn't say that. He said he wanted to have a match with Wardlow, as Chris Jericho and MJF looked at him like, dude, what are you doing? You're gonna ruin our group. As we have talked about a stare-off, why don't you and I have a little bit of a stare-off right now? You remember that game when you were kids? So I'll go 3, 2, 1. You keep your eyes open, and whoever blinks first loses. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. If you actually went to join in that game, how the hell do you think we're gonna call a winner? I can't see you. You're not in the room. You silly person. We then cut to a proper music video with the Acclaimed, who were just rapping and taking the mick out of the Young Bucks. And I know it's all very John Cena-esque, but there's something about these two guys. I just like them. I was pleased to see them here. I was happy they're in the main event. So I am putting them on my 2021 watch list. And who doesn't want to be on that? Oh, I'm on the Bald Assholes 2021 watch list. It's kind of depressing. And then Sting was here. I just love Sting. He was chatting to Tony Schiavone and finally explaining why he had come to All Elite Wrestling, and this was very much appreciated, because for 3 weeks I've been going, why exactly has Sting come to All Elite Wrestling? Well, it all comes down to Dusty Rhodes. Sting admitted that without Dusty Rhodes, there wouldn't have been a Sting, so as soon as he had seen what Cody Rhodes was doing, he knew he had to come and join in the fun. So just good old Sting, he's such a nice guy, he's such a lovable chap, and just as he was about to talk about Darby Allin, who of course interrupted none other than Team Taz, and they're not impressed with Sting at all. In fact, they think he's a piece of crap. They've also got it on good authority that Sting doesn't appreciate the colour orange, and because of that, they are going to come to the ring and they're going to beat him up. And I was like, man, that doesn't sound fun at all. Why can't we just leave Sting alone? In a nice twist on the usual though, at this point the lights did start to flicker, and then all of a sudden in the ring, who did appear but Darby Allin, who has clearly learned some teleportation powers from his would-be dad. But what a sight, what a visual this was. Sting, a man who has done it all in wrestling, with Darby Allin, who only recently won his first championship. I think just seeing them together does Darby the world of good. It meant that Team Taz backed off, and Taz made a very good point because he's like, well, we could come down there, but you got Darby Allin who's got his skateboard, and you got Sting who's got a bat. We understand when we do need to go. Apart from Brian Cage, who was like, I'm ready to go. He was in his ring gear. He's like, I'll fight him right now. And they had to hold him back, and this tied into the fact that in a couple of weeks, we're getting Brian Cage versus Darby Allin for the TNT title. The bad guys also promised to rip both of these guys' heads off. And this is what wrestling has done to me. I went, well, that could actually happen. I mean, on Sunday, I saw a man burned to death. You just never know. The good thing is, though, is that I'm massively intrigued to see where this goes. Like, do we get a Darby Allin and Sting tag team? Does Sting join Team Taz? I mean, that would be the worst decision ever. But I am in a position where I'm guessing that's what pro wrestling should always do. Should keep you on your toes. That was my fingers. MJF then worked his magic on Santana. I mean, this little segment, it ticked my boxes. Because we were in the backstage area here, and Maxwell looked right into a camera and said, look, you're not here so people can see that I'm a good guy. You're here because I feel like this needs to be documented. And straight away we'd explained why this was being filmed. And then he then busted into a room, and who was at the table having a little play? It was Santana and Ortiz. Now, as you know, Santana has been off Dynamite recently because he lost somebody in his personal life, and MJF went up to him and truly heartfelt said, dude, I understand where you're coming from. I lost my granddad recently. I get how hard this can be, and I just want you to know I understand. And I'm not kidding. This hit me right in the feels. I was like, oh my gosh, the emotion is here. So not only was this done really well, but because we know what Maxwell Jacob Friedman is like, you instantly thought, dude, he's manipulating you, but obviously in an hour of need, you're not going to see that. So if it does turn out that all of a sudden Ortiz and Santana are on the side of MJF and he kicks Chris Jericho out and takes over the group, well, you've seen everything being planted. Although maybe this is used to turn the proud of the powerful face. Maybe, down the line, it's even used to turn Maxwell Jacob Friedman face. Honestly, this was just so real, I couldn't quite believe it. Although with all that said, I do not believe that the inner circle is long for this world. AEW then kept up their solid run of tag team matches because it was the Jurassic Express taking on the Dark Order. As I always say, I was just riding the roller coaster of fun. Up. In terms of personnel, it was Luchasaurus, and my word, it was good to see him back on Dynamite. Everyone loves that guy, especially me, teaming up with Jungle Boy and Marco Stunt, and they were taking on Colt Cabana 5 and 10. And when you start doing that, it sounds like we're on Sesame Street. Really though, this was like getting your dad involved after you've bitten off more than you can chew, because Marco Stunt was like Scrappy-Doo at first, he was doing all right, but as soon as the tides turned, he ran to Luchasaurus, he was like, Father, please. The dinosaur got in there, and he just took everybody out. Luchasaurus also grabbed his would-be son and started throwing him around the place, so human projectiles are a massive part of all elite wrestling, and when Jungle Boy was in there, once again, you're like, man, this guy can move. Never forget, it may take some time, but Jungle Jack is going to be one of the biggest stars in the company. Colt caused a distraction at one point, which allowed the Dark Order to take over, but then we were back to Luchasaurus grabbing Marco Stunt and chucking him around, which ended with a Jurassic Express-assisted powerbomb on 5, who was pinned for the 1, 2, 3. Look at me being a referee today. Santa ref. What? And all of that makes sense as well. The Jurassic Express are gearing up for a match against FTR, so they need some wins in their back pocket. We're about to get that match soon. And I know this because naturally, straight afterwards, Cash Dax and Tully Blanchard appeared on the big screen, and they just started to rant and rave about the Jurassic Express, saying you're a bunch of idiots, you're a bunch of goobers, we are the tag team of the year, and when we do face you in a couple of weeks, we will win. Blanchard also promised that if Marco Stunt was anywhere to be seen, he may have to go back to the 80s, insinuating that he was going to beat him up. And there was this great line when Tully also said they're sick and tired of dinosaurs getting in the way. So I like to think that Tully Blanchard actually believes, and of course he is, I'm not saying anything otherwise, but he actually believes that Luchasaurus is a real dinosaur and he is sick and tired of T-Rexes screwing everything up. And they do that, T-Rexes. They are never on time. We then cut to a hotel lobby where Kenny Omega and Don Callis were, and these two are just coming across like megastars. Also, Don Callis is just the best troll ever. The first thing he said was that AEW was run like an absolute stupid place because Tony Khan allows the wrestlers to run amok. This coming from the guy who's in charge of Impact Wrestling, where a month ago, some dude got shot live on TV. Omega then took over, and we ain't playing around no more. This is a bad guy at the height of his badness, because he started talking about Phoenix, who he does have to defend his title against in a couple of weeks, and he was like, you choke all the time, you absolutely suck, nobody likes you, your mother hates you, and I think you're an absolute piece of trash, so what do you think I'm gonna do to you when we do meet in the ring? And I was like, damn, Ken, you run him down. He even said that when he is done, maybe he can go to Impact Wrestling, and Don was like, that ain't happening. Phoenix is too injury prone. So now, am I on the side of Phoenix? Well, no, I'm not, because I still believe that Kenny Omega is the best in the world and this character is so good. But when I put my kayfabe hat on, which is much like my Santa hat, then yes, I am. But they are both acting like they're the biggest deals on the planet. I actually do think that Kenny Omega is the best wrestler in the world right now. Also, this is all they did on the show, and sometimes less is more. It is getting it up. Eddie Kingston then joined the commentary team, which meant for the next 5 or 10 minutes, wrestling just became real. He also absolutely hates Tony Schiavone, which really makes me laugh. And in the ring, we were seeing Pac versus The Butcher, another match I never thought I'd see in 2020. It's an easy up. It was just playing to both guys' strengths, which meant Pac was really quick and he was really agile, whereas The Butcher was selling meat and saying hi and being nice to customers. That's not what he was doing. He was being really powerful and just whooping ass. Penta and the Blade were at ringside acting like kids, including at one point when Penta got pushed into the ring post courtesy of the Blade. And at that moment you realize, oh my gosh, Pac does have a heart because he was concerned for his friend. And then the Butcher powerbombed him for a close 2 count. Kingston then started to lose his mind here because he was shouting instructions at the Butcher, but he didn't really think he was paying attention. And I was like, yeah, Eddie, you miles away from the ring. He can't hear you. But to try and rectify that, he marched his way down to the ring, and do you know who cut him off? None other than Lance Archer. And he was out here so fast, there's no two ways about it. He must have just been stood in the tunnel waiting. But Lance Archer a little bit strange. He did stop all of this though, which benefited Pac because he climbed to the top rope, he hit that beautiful looking black arrow, and the Geordie man is your winner. We of course are going to get this 6-man at one point, although I do suppose it depends what happens when Phoenix takes on Kenny Omega. Now, I don't think Phoenix is going to win the title, but surely these two stories have to collide somehow. We will wait and see. Now, right, has anyone else been wondering, wait a minute, now that Brandy Rhodes is pregnant, how is she going to have this match with Jade Cargill, which AEW has been behind? Don't worry, you're not alone, and we actually got an answer right now. Why? Or how? Well, Jade Cargill was cutting a promo here, and she said just that. Although no, what she actually said was that she believes Brandy got pregnant because she was so worried about facing her. Imagine anybody did that in real life. I'm really, really scared about fighting this person. I should just go have a kid and change the course and direction of my life. Anywho, Jade demanded that somebody stood up in her place, and I actually think that's quite exciting because yes, AEW is treating this like a big deal, so why don't we rub some star power onto someone and send them up to the moon? And my choice is Red Velvet. I think she's been very impressive every time I've seen her. Now is the time to see what she can do. Miro, Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford were then out, and finally, they were gonna talk about this wedding. Saban bigged it up like it was the biggest announcement ever since the world was created, although my invitation hasn't turned up, so I suppose I'll just wait by the post box and see what happens. And of course, the best friends at Orange Cassidy made it very clear that at one point they were going to interrupt, so when their music started to play, you thought to yourself, well, here we go. However, this didn't go down in the way that you would have expected, because when we did all of a sudden cut to the big screen, it wasn't the best friends at Orange Cassidy being like, we don't like your wording, we think it sucks. In fact, it was Trent being loaded into an ambulance as his friends, his buddies watched on, with Miro just cracking up at ringside. Well, I guess he must have gone out there and absolutely destroyed them. So what a nice twist that was, I thought to myself. And when we were back with Kip Sabian, he did announce that we will be having the wedding at AEW Beach Break, which goes down in early February. So I guess they're gonna have a nice beach wedding. The problem is, the first thing I thought was one, what the hell happened to the bachelor party? And two, I don't know, all of this just seems really, really weird and disconnected. Why haven't we seen the best friends versus Miro and Kip Sabian yet? we've been waiting a long ass time. And I know we have a good month to sort all this out, and the 6 people involved in this, including Penelope Ford, they're all really good. I'm just disconnected from it. I felt my brain starting to wonder. Because of that, it's got to get it down. It just needs to end with Miro ruining everyone, and then I'll be a pleased pup. Dustin Rhodes then carried on his journey to destroy the Dark Order from within. Up. He was taking on Evil Uno, who, do not get me wrong, was absolutely vicious here, and yet somehow just generates all the sympathy in the world. I can't quite fathom this. I mean, his name is Evil Uno, and sometimes when Dustin Rhodes was on the attack, I was like, man, poor Evil Uno. What kind of sentence is that? Like at one point he went to hit Dustin Rhodes, Dustin moved and Evil Uno twonked the ring post instead, and Dustin went after his hand after that, and I felt sorry for the guy. I think I'm nuts. The atmosphere did change when Stu Grayson, who was at ringside, kept getting involved, but really this was just about Dustin Rhodes being beaten up, able to fight his way back before hitting yet another out of nowhere running bulldog like he did last week against 10, and he got the 1-2-3. So far, he is doing everything he said he was going to do. Evil Uno was still undeterred though, and he offered Dustin Rhodes his hand, and even though Dustin teased he was going to shake it, instead he just booted the Evil One. Once again, I was just like, man, poor Evil Uno. Somebody needs to give him a break, even though he's basically the second leader in a cult. So I did think this was a little mean, which proves that at some point along the way, I have been indoctrinated, and it really pissed off the Dark Order because they came out here and they started to beat up Dustin Rhodes. Lee Johnson, who had accompanied the Natural One, was also at ringside and he got twonked too, and even QT Marshall came down to make the save, and yeah, he ended up on the floor. Thankfully though, it did give Johnson time to recover and he hit a springboard onto all of this, so I can see a 3-man or a 6-man tag team brewing. And all of this is fine as long as one of them, be it Dustin Rhodes or Lee Johnson or QT Marshall, one of them has to be taken into the group. You just need that little bit of a spin. Also, the Dark Order are a cult. They gotta have new recruits. We then had what I at first thought was an odd interview with Shawn Spears, but now in retrospect and hindsight, well, I think it was pretty damn good. Up. Now I'm going to guess that this is AEW tying up loose ends, which I really do appreciate because it means years down the line when my geek brain kicks into gear, I'm not going to go, wait a minute, what happened with that storyline? It was just dropped and I actually have a resolution. But Spears was talking to Tony Schiavone and he said to Tony, Tone, why did you leave the wrestling industry all those years ago? And Schiavone said, well, I was burned out, and Shawn Spears went, exactly. This sparked off Shawn, who said that he never needed this stupid loaded glove that he had been doing with Tully Blanchard, and the only reason he comes from TV and he goes from TV and he comes from TV and he goes from TV is because the powers that be, that being Cody Rhodes and Tony Khan, they don't give him an opportunity, they don't give him a shot, and he is left to suffer, even though he's one of the best wrestlers in the damn company. He absolutely lost it after Schiavone said, well, really, the common denominator here is you, maybe you two need to look internally. So Shawn Spears got up, he shouted a few words, and he left, and the insinuation was, he's not gonna be back for a while, and it made me go, ha! Now I do still have a few questions in the sense, is he actually gonna be gone from TV for a while, but also what happened to his feud with Scorpio Sky? This was compelling, this was intriguing, it was a great delivery. If AEW can actually capitalize on this, well, I think they may have something. We just can't drop it again because yes, Shawn Spears did make a very good point, nothing has really been consistent. But honestly, really damn good. And also, at least we now know why Tully Blanchard and Shawn Spears are no longer a thing. They broke up. Tear. Abadon then attacked Shida as she was doing a pre-match interview. I was trying to come up with a word here to insult Abadon. I was going to call her Abadon the asshole. Then I was like, I don't think she's going to care. And also, look at her. She would probably appreciate it. It wasn't ideal for the AEW Women's Champion, who then had to go to the ring for her match with Alex Garcia. And look, she was kind of just in the background here because we were building everything between Shida and Abadon, but that's what we need to do. We're all going on about how these feuds need more time. Well, there was some time. It also gave us the extra details we needed because halfway through, Abadon just appeared at ringside and Shida was like, no, I'm done with this, I can't handle it. So she went and beat her up and she was so focused on this, she almost got counted out, like at the last second. She's like, oh, I'm at 9, and she got back in just at the last second. Obviously. She also then just hit the Falcon Arrow onto Alex Garcia, which I really liked because it was like, man, I'm done with this, I can't handle it anymore. And I thought all of this was actually well done. Shida wasn't done though because she wanted to finish Abadon off, so she got her best friend, also known as a kendo stick, but because Abadon is some kind of undead zombie warrior, she was then back on her feet, and not only did she attack Shida, but she bit her neck like she was Dracula or some kind of bonkers vampire. Now, was this goofy? Yes. Was this over the top? Yes. But look at Abadon. What are you gonna do? Sit down, have a cup of tea? Oh, I'm having a great time here, Mrs. Potts. No, you gotta do crazy stuff. And I was laughing my ass off in the appropriate way because I need this stuff in my life. But then we have to talk about the commentators. Now, at first, they reacted like, oh my gosh, it's so bizarre. But then within seconds, Jim Ross just went, hey folks, now we have to build to our main event. I was like, somebody just bit somebody else's neck. I think we need to be just a little bit more concerned. Now, I do want to say that I think JR especially gets way too much criticism. It's not necessary. He does a great job. But here, it did take me out of the moment, and I just scratched my bald head. I'm bald under here, in case you don't know. But you gotta sell this stuff. Even if you don't agree with it and you think it's absolute nonsense, you gotta sell with it. Otherwise, yeah, you steal away my fun. So just for this one occasion, is getting it down. It was then our main event, and as we are approaching the end of the year, I just want to say that not only are the Young Bucks the best tag team of 2020, but surely they've got to be the best tag team in the world. And no, it's not just because they do flippy-dippy doo-dah stuff, it's because they sell really well, they have great psychology, they understand their characters, they're just really likable. This was just a great tag team match against the Acclaimed, and it made me feel all warm and fuzzy in that there tum-tum. Getting up. This was so good that you absolutely should go out of your way to watch it, and not just for what we were seeing in the ring, because actually going back to the commentators, they brought up the fact that so many people in the back and the fans are a little bit annoyed because it feels like the Acclaimed talked their way into a title match, and that's not how it should go. But they also then caveated that with, well, they'd also won all these matches back to back, so they probably do deserve it. And you can do anything you want within wrestling as long as you bring it up and put it as part of the story, because you don't leave the audience going, I don't understand what's going on. It just got addressed. Otherwise, yeah, the Acclaimed are absolute dicks. So they would keep tripping people up or using outside distractions. And when Nick Jackson got the hot tag, well, he just has the best hot tag in the business. Matt fired up at one point that got me so jazzed I was screaming at my television screen because I'm a really, really weird person. And there was enough near falls here to make you go, wait a minute. Are we actually going to have the Acclaimed win the tag team titles? I mean, obviously no, but they got me. The biggest of these two came when Nick accidentally super kicked the referee right in the face, and man, Caster and Bowens didn't waste any time at all. They punched him right in the dick, they used their boombox again, and just as another referee ran down into the ring, they got the one, they got to the two, and then Nick kicked out at the last second. The Acclaim were going to take this further and even set up for the Indie Taker, but thankfully Matt Jackson stopped that, and he tried to pull Bowens off the apron. He wasn't able to, so Nick Jackson super kicked him. That freed Matt Jackson to walk over to a table and just powerbomb him through it. The Bucks then hit the BTE trigger to get the win and retain the titles, and this was just so good. It really, really was. It was so enjoyable, and it's one of those moments where, like, you know what, I don't care what anybody else thinks. If you don't like it, that's fine. You do you, I'm gonna do me. But I was just entertained, and that's all I need when I'm looking for entertainment. And that brings us to the end of another AEW Dynamite. It was nice to see a wrestling show with the good guys celebrating with their good guy titles. I mean, sometimes you see actual death, and that kind of makes you feel a little bit different. But was it the best episode ever? No. But was it flipping good? You bet your ass, and it's getting it up. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about last night's episode of AEW Dynamite. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Check us out over at WhatCulture.com. Follow us on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. Watch more videos here on WhatCulture Wrestling. My name is Simon from WhatCulture. We will be back on Boxing Day when we up those downs for SmackDown, but as we are 24 hours away from Christmas, it's Christmas Eve. Have a great holiday, have a great day, eat as much as you want, make sure you put a smile on your face. Thank you for all the support throughout the year. It means so much to me, you will never know. And I'll see you soon.